Here's why The Boys Episode 4 ending means more than you think. The boys are not only back in town, but they're also back out of town in Episode 4. The gruesome superhero satire ratcheted up the stakes in its 4th episode with some unexpected superpowers, a hilarious takedown of that Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad, and murders most foul. However, the most shocking moments of this episode came in the ending, which saw several storylines reach a boiling point. We're going to break down that ending, how it relates to the comics, and what it means for the rest of the season in just a moment. However, to do so, we have to spoil what happens in The Boys Season 3, Episode 4. So if you haven't seen it yet, leave now before you see something you probably shouldn't.
Your d***'s out.
Okay, let's get into it, shall we? The episode, titled Glorious 5-Year Plan, is in and of itself a reference to the comics. There was a Soviet superhero team of the same name. We saw one of its members, and specifically his member, in Season 2, Love Sausage. Better known as Voss, the cheekily named soup was one of the patients at the Sage Grove Center where Lamplighter was being held. He attempted to choke out Mother's milk until Kimiko knocked him out, forcing his meat to beat a retreat.
That's his f***ing Don't be so close-minded.
In the context of this episode, though, the episode's title refers to the boys' mission to Moscow to do their due diligence for little Nina and uncover the mysteries of BCL Red. It's a weapon believed to have killed Soldier Boy and is capable of taking down Homelander. As our heroes discover, though, rumors of Soldier Boy's death were greatly exaggerated. One of the main conflicts of this episode revolves around Butcher secretly taking V24, the temporary version of Compound V that gives you superpowers for 24 hours. It can also cause you to vomit uncontrollably, as Huey learned the hard way.
What the f***?
Worst of all, in Butcher's case, and seemingly in Huey's, the rush it gives you seems to be pretty addictive. Now, this storyline echoes Butcher injecting Huey with Compound V to give him superpowers on their very first mission in the comics. Likewise, Huey's dramatic rescue of Mother's milk punching a hole through a guard's body echoes how he murdered the soup Blarney Cock in the comics by punching a hole through his chest. And speaking of Blarney Cock, what a name, we saw another reference to that Teenage Kicks member in this sequence. Remember that souped-up hamster Jamie?
Who's a handsome petit little gerbil?
It's a hamster.
Well, before he was burrowing into the skulls of unsuspecting guards, he was a normal-ass hamster in the comics, emphasis on ass. Poor Jamie, originally named Herbie, belonged to Blarney, who put the animal into his rectum. After Huey killed Blarney, he rescued this wretched creature and renamed him Jamie. Now, later, Blarney did come back from the dead and tried to reclaim his butt hamster, but thankfully he was swiftly sent back to hell. Now back to the matter at hand, though. When Butcher opens up one of the holding cells in the Russian lab searching for BCL Red, he discovers something much more terrifying. Soldier Boy, in the flesh, very much not dead. Seemingly the subject of Winter Soldier-esque experiments, Soldier Boy's been kept in containment all these years. Most likely this was so they could potentially use his blood to help create their own soups for use in the military, kind of like we see Stan Edgar offering to the US military. Or maybe they want to turn him into a weapon they can control against their enemies, kind of like Vought does with Homelander. As we see in graffiti and news reports during this episode, Homelander is a frequent subject of news and propaganda in Russia. One particularly poignant piece of graffiti depicts Queen Maeve in a pose similar to Francisco Goya's painting Saturn devouring his son. The painting shows the Greek myth of the Titan Kronos, aka Saturn in Roman mythology, eating his child. He did so because it was foretold that one of his children would one day overthrow him. There's a similar piece of graffiti as well, picturing Homelander like a vampire, biting a person emblazoned with the Russian coat of arms. These pieces of art portray soups as parasitic creatures fearful of being replaced, leeching off society, and taking violent steps to avoid being pushed out of the limelight. As we've seen time and time again through his obsession with approval ratings and public opinion, it's really one of Homelander's deep-seated fears. And there's a very real chance that his son Ryan could be the one to defeat him as well, a la Saturn. That is, if Butcher can stop pushing this poor kid away, and he gets those eye beams under control.
And your blood smells funny too.
When Soldier Boy escapes, he winds up unleashing a blast of reddish-white hot energy that sends Kimiko flying through a nearby wall. This is either the direct result of BCL Red, or Soldier Boy himself is BCL Red. He's a living weapon that they're hoping to point at their foes. Now we see that this is just as effective as been advertised. Soldier Boy's blast critically injures Kimiko and inhibits her healing factor, which we saw was active earlier in the episode during that dildo battle. Thankfully, Kimiko will most likely survive based on the hospital delusion we saw teased in the trailers. That musical scene, it's gonna happen. As for Soldier Boy, we know he's going to escape and make his way to the streets of New York as teased by previous trailers. Likewise, we know that he'll be involved in a showdown against Starlight and the boys on a TV set, maybe the Cameron Coleman Hour perhaps from previous trailers as well. For now, the boys have much bigger problems on their hands though. Kimiko is critically injured, the man who killed MM's family's on the loose, the boys seem ready to fall apart at the seams as a group, and Huey is on a very dark road after succumbing to the temptations of V24. Suffice to say, he never watched Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
You don't want it.
I think I kind of want it.
Okay, but just this once. Come on in.
Regardless, it seems like Huey's in for a rude awakening and a brutal come down as the boys seem to be out of V24 doses for the time being. For more on that particular plot point though, make sure you check out Michael Walsh's excellent essay over on Nerdist.com. As for the situation back home, Victoria Newman's power play against Stan Edgar could have disastrous consequences. Not only does Starlight no longer have Stan's protection anymore, but Victoria has fully aligned herself with a lunatic in the form of Homelander. Having the head of the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Activities, a secret soup herself, willing to turn a blind eye could create major headaches for the boys down the line, both legal and the kind caused by her exploding head ability. Plus, with a presidential election playing out in the background, maybe we could see Victoria Newman working her way closer to the White House like her comic book counterpart did. Of course, this will most likely involve fewer Wolverine attacks per capita, but for Dakota Bob, the chances of getting killed by a Wolverine, while low, are never zero. As for Starlight, she's also getting in deeper and deeper as she finds her stock of allies dwindling faster than expected. Foolishly, Supersonic tried to bring A-Train into the fold in their coalition against Homelander. However, A-Train, as we well know, is a cowardly, selfish man. He instantly told Homelander what was going on to buy himself some brownie points in his egotistical battle against the Deep to be Daddy's favorite son. Homelander then summarily murdered Supersonic, using his death to intimidate Starlight into falling in line and threatening to do the same to Huey.
Don't look at you two. I'm kidding. Come on, lighten up. I'm joking.
Now, as we head into the second half of the season, the biggest questions that remain are whether or not the boys can reconcile their crisis of leadership, whether Huey will descend into addiction and depravity now that he's had a taste of what real power's like, how the team can stop Soldier Boy, and whether Starlight and Maeve have what it takes to continue their fight against Homelander. Based on those shots of pro-Homelander rallies in the trailers, it seems like he's only going to get stronger and more powerful from here as the series goes on. For now, though, we'll be waiting with bated breath for when the new episode of The Boys drops this Friday on Prime Video. In the meantime, though, we have plenty of other deep dives into this season of The Boys just waiting for you over on Nerdist.com. For now, though, tell us, what do you think of this season so far? What do you think is going to happen next? And who's more dangerous, Soldier Boy, Homelander, or Jamie? Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.